How to stop the foreclosure process. In this video, I'm going to show you how to stop the foreclosure process in its track. Okay, this is going to be very beneficial. If you're in that situation, there's all sorts of levers you can start pulling. I will show you where those are. In fact, not only will I show you where they are, I will show you different ways where you can turn this into an advantage and not a disadvantage. Okay, stick around. At the very end, I've got some really cool bonuses for you that I'll make sure you get. So let's go through this real quick before I head up for dinner there. Okay, so first of all, how do you stop a foreclosure process? Pay the mortgage. Okay, I'm a smart aleck. Here's the deal. In all 50 states, once a property becomes 30 days delinquent, the lender, whomever that might be, that could be the bank, that could be a private lender, whoever that might be, has to send out an NOD, a notice of default. What that does is automatically triggers a 90-day process of, some of them call it mediation. It's basically a way, it gives you a window to talk to the lending institution that lent you the money and say, what can we do to work something out? This is crucial for you to understand, okay? It's not crucial, it's crucial. Okay, so what I mean by that is the lending institutions, those of you that are lending money out there, we don't want the property. Okay, we've already sold the property. We put a loan on the property. Maybe I'm carrying back the note, or the bank just put a loan, so you could purchase this property. The agreement was to pay it back. They don't want the property. So if somebody stops making their payments, there has to be some kind of a standard operating procedure. And what it is there has to be an NOD. An NOD is a notice of default that just says, hey, you're late. Let's try to work something out. So understand where the banks are coming from. Not so much me, because I don't get reported to, but they're under regulation. And so when a mortgage is delinquent, 30 days, the feds know this. When it's delinquent now, 60 days, they know it. So they have what they call leading indicators, which tells the economy, really, where it's going, but it also tells the health of the bank. So if I've got, let's just use some simple numbers, okay? $100 million in loans out. I'm Bank of Sean, and I've lent out $100 million in mortgages, and all of a sudden I start getting defaults, meaning I'm 30 days, my borrowers are 30 days late, 60 days late, all these things. They're gonna see this as, whoa, something's going on here. And it's very rare that it's gonna be isolated to the bank unless the banks are just not following the rules. That's why they have guidelines. That's why they have income statements, tax returns, because these things are all indicators on whether somebody's going to pay it back. The adverse of that, though, is somebody stops making their payment, the sooner they can get a hold of the institution, the easier it is to resolve the situation. So let me put myself in this situation. I have had something tragic happen to me. It doesn't matter what it is. Oh my gosh, I'm not going to be able to make the mortgage payment for at least a couple of months. I'll just hope they don't call me. Don't do that. You call them immediately and say, hey, here's the situation. You get ahead of the NOD. It's not going to stop it, but you get ahead of that, and at least you can start a dialogue, especially if it's one of these big banks that are hard to get a hold of, and saying, hey, I want to see if I can do a loan modification. I want to see if I can tack it on to the end. I want to see if I can do a deed in lieu of foreclosure, which saves your credit. Like, I'm just going to hand you, there can be a short sale. There can be a lot of things that you can do that will stop the foreclosure process. But the only way that's going to happen is if you're communicating with the bank. And understand, I know this is going to sound crazy, but they actually want to help. They don't want to foreclose on the property. That does not look good on their portfolio. Okay, if a bank has a certain percentage of loans that they've underwritten and funded, whether they've sent them off and sold them in the secondary market or not, if they start getting a certain percentage that starts to default, and if that's not like happening all over, that's gonna be a bad day for them. So just keep that in mind. So the way to stop the foreclosure process, by talking to them, doesn't actually stop the foreclosure, but at least it gives you that window of, hey, this is what's going on. Now I'm gonna tell you, if you haven't resolved or come to an agreement on a new way to make the payments on this loan within 4 months, it's going to go into default, and they're going to go ahead and send out all the rest of the letters and go from there. They have to do this process. If they don't, they can be in a lot of trouble. Also, kind of a look at it that way, and I think it might be a little easier. Oh, they're just out to get the property is the last thing that they want. So keep that in mind. Now, one way to avoid that, if you're the lender on it, because you're going to get to a point where you own a property and somebody wants to buy it off you and they might want you to carry the note on it, don't go, okay, they're going to buy the house and I can always get the house back. That's, again, not what you want to do. You don't want the house back. But, I mean, look at how you do one thing is usually how you do everything. So if I'm looking at this person's credit history, I'm looking at their job history, those lending criteria are there for a reason, because they work. Okay, all of those things are a very good and reliable indication on whether somebody is going to pay or not. So whenever you're doing that, if I'm saying, okay, you know what, I'll sell you the property, I'll carry the note on it, I have to say to myself, as long as I'm willing to take this property back. Okay, I had somebody back in the debacle down in '09, they said, God, all the properties I was lending on, they're all coming back to me. They're not making their payments. And I'm going, so let me get this straight. You sold these once 10 years ago, and now you're getting the properties back. They're worth more money, and they've been making payments on it the whole time? And he's like, well, I never looked at it like that. So, again, even though he had a windfall because he got the properties back, the last thing he wanted was the properties back. So keep that in mind. So when you're doing research on these properties and you're looking to make this happen, I'm telling you, there's a lot of predictable software out there that, look, I can go in with my software and look in a neighborhood with about 17% accuracy. It's going to tell me who's going to go in default in the next 90 days. It's bizarre because all of these things leave patterns. If this happens, this happens. Hey, does a system get bucked? Absolutely. I'm not saying it's ironclad, but when I'm having a 17% accuracy, knowing who is going to sell their property in the neighborhood based on what magazines they're subscribing to, if they're retiring, the kids move away, is there a divorce? All of those things factor into, they might be selling the property. They might be getting ready to get foreclosed on. I tell you what, one of the predictabilities is if somebody's been delinquent on their mortgage. If they've been delinquent on their mortgage, even if they bailed it out, there's a high propensity for them to be late on the mortgage again. So just keep that in mind. So when you're doing research on these properties that you want to buy through tax deeds and what have you, make sure it's the underlying property that you want. But again, how do you stop a foreclosure? I'm not trying to be a smart aleck, but the first thing is you've got to get a hold of it and make the payments. Figure out what can happen. So let's say I've got 3 months of delinquent payments on it. I can say, hey, listen, how about if I start now with the regular payments and we put all of those tens of thousands or whatever that is, I don't know what their mortgage payment is, on the backside of the loan. That's a way of doing it. But they're not going to go, I know what they're thinking. They're thinking that they need to get some help on this. You have to reach out. That's why they all have that 90 window period. That gives you the ability to communicate with the lender and say, hey, kind of got ahead of my skis here and fell a little bit. They're not there to judge about why the reason is. They're there to get you back on track to make sure they have a mortgage that's serviceable on that. Does that make sense? So hopefully that helps you out with that. Now let me tell you something. Whether you're late or somebody's late with you, there's a ton of ways just within this capsule that you can make some money. I've got a strategy that I have a brand new course on. It's free to you for watching this long. Just go down to the tab down below in the descriptions and hit the higginsmethod.com. And I've got a brand new course I'm super proud of put together that you can watch at your leisure and make some money for you and your family. This is Saen Higgins saying God bless and good luck.